Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. So today I'm going to make a video about one of the probably most dreaded areas in the game for a lot of people. And I think I'm going to try to aim this towards the 99% of people that are still progressing through this area and not really focusing on the top of the top. So I'm going to try to cater my advice towards the majority. So the area I'm talking about is not live arena, but it's another form of arena, and it's tag team arena. So tag team arena here, I'm in gold 4. So gold 4 is the highest level of tag team arena, but I know from experience slugging through tag team is incredibly difficult, arduous, stressful, and sometimes just downright not fun. So for the majority of players, when you're starting out in tag team, obviously we all start in bronze 1. I feel like the majority of your early game, mid game is actually spent in tier 1. So once you are in bronze 1, obviously you want to try to go up, and some of the missions towards Ramontu will force you up the tiers into gold 1 eventually. But until you have a pretty set roster, at least of at least 1260 level champions, it would be hard to make solid teams to get yourself out of bronze 1 and start climbing. Don't be discouraged if you are stuck in bronze 1 and you have been playing this game for, let's say, 6 months, 9 months, even a year, because it takes a long time for you to build your roster so that you have enough champions to actually even fill out 12 spots. I'm going to go into my roster here. Actually, not yet. Let's not talk about that yet. Let's keep talking about the tiers. I'm going to talk to you guys why we want to climb tag team. So tag team, obviously as part of missions, we're going to have to climb tag team all the way up to gold 1. Also, tag team gives you guys bars. These bars, they don't give you anything immediately in terms of overall value, but in the bazaar, once you start climbing the tiers, so bronze tier, silver tier, and gold tier, it does unlock some of these really nice juicy rewards. Once you're in bronze, the most important rewards here is going to be the obviously ancient shard and then the energy. Both of these have a 1 week cooldown, so keep that in mind when you guys are doing this. Also, for a one-time only, you guys also get some fragment champions like Drexar, Yakarl, Yannicka. So all those champions can be only collected once. You can only buy 1 fragment per day. I've seen some stories where people collect all the bars, gold bars needed to buy Drexar, and then they wait to buy Drexar, but they don't realize that you can only buy, I believe, 3 fragments per day. I forgot how many fragments you can buy. Oh, sorry, it's 1 fragment per day. So it takes you 100 days to acquire Drexar. And Drexar is an incredibly valuable champion, especially for a roster that's pretty limited. He's a great boss champion, for example. Yannicka and Yakarl, not so much as generally used as Drexar. They both are good in their own right. So the champions I'm talking about here, Drexar and Yannicka. Drexar is a demon spawn champion. He has the AoE, the passive HP burn, great against bosses. And he definitely helps you. Once you get him, after 100 days of grinding for him, he'll definitely help you if your roster is limited. Yannicka is a spirit-based New King champion. She has some ignore shields and some extra turn stuff, but she's just kind of another damage-based nuker. If you were playing during Sun Wukong, Sun Wukong's gonna be better than her. And then we have Yakarl, which is a void barbarian. He's okay, has some damage. He brings the decreased speed. He brings another freeze ability here. And then another freeze on his A1. He's good against hard Fire Knight because of all his freezing. And then his decreased speed is obviously very good against Fire Knight. But yeah, as a general damage dealer for an early account, maybe not the best. So Drexar I definitely recommend from the Tag Team Bazaar, and anybody that's starting out in the game should definitely focus on that for sure. Everything else is kind of just extra. So for example, there's going to be like an Arbiter skin that you can get. It's kind of pointless. Arbiter skin is just not that important for like low spend or free to play. You're also going to get one copy of the Broadmaw fusions, so the Void rares. You only get one copy. I wish it was, you always can get it, but you only get one copy of them. So the most likely things you're going to buy in bronze is energy and the ancient shard. And these things you should probably get all the time. Once you get out of bronze, you actually go into silver and you have the option to get a void shard, which is very important. And these accessories here, 4 to 6 star. This will give you the refresh accessory or the cleansing accessory. Both accessories are good. However, the refresh accessory is significantly better. So you want to start farming these every day because the chances of you getting something usable is pretty low. So make sure you farm this every day. Gives yourself the best chance, of course, to getting something useful. Everything else I don't really bother with. 4-star chicken I never buy. Epic book I never buy. This charm I never buy. Avatar is pretty useless. So at the very least, you would want to get out of bronze and at least try to get into silver to get the void shard and obviously the accessory. Like I said, accessory is very important. Void shard is super nice to get, of course, and I believe it's on a 2-week cooldown. And once your roster is strong enough and you can peek into gold, all you need to do is go into gold, ideally every day to pick up the accessories. You get the 5 and 6-star version of the refresh and cleansing accessory. But if you can peek into gold once a month, you get a chance at a sacred shard. Sacred shard is on a 1-month cooldown. So it's a pretty long cooldown, but that only means you only need to get into gold once a month to get access to this sacred shard. So like I said, guys, it's a bit of a grind, but once your roster is developed enough and you guys get the gold, it's well worth it to get an extra sacred shard. And obviously these goodies are really good: rarity charm, rank charm, and then the 5 and 6-star accessory, which will expire in 3, 2, 1. So pick that up right away. Show you guys. Dwarves Cleansing Amulet. This one, 4 6-star, 5-star cleansing ring. So those are probably not going to be used, but that's pretty much what you're grinding for. And then you get the option every day, 24 hours, right? The other thing about Tag Team Arena is that it really increases your CBC points output the higher you go into tag team, because each fight you win is actually a significant amount of points relative to the gem investment that you actually put in. In terms of overall points per gem, it's actually very efficient to do tag team as opposed to grinding anything else like dungeons, for example. However, you don't get anything tangible immediately, so you just get these gold bars, which of course work towards other rewards, but you don't get anything tangible like gear or silver right away. So that's going to be a trade-off, of course, but it's very, very efficient in terms of gem spending for CVC points. So for example, in Gold 4, one fight for me is 780 points. That's the equivalent of almost 2 spider runs, which is the equivalent of 40 energy. So in one token bag, I'm getting 10 of these tokens. So that's 7,800 points. One token bag costs, your first token bag costs 15 gems. So, that's a lot of points for only 15 gems. Every time you buy these bags, the price will increase. So it goes 15, 40, 50, 60, etc. So it'll keep increasing. So of course, even at the highest level, it's still going to be very, very efficient in terms of CVC points. So definitely work towards grinding up tag team for that, just to help your CVC points. Maybe it saves you guys some extra effort down the way. All right, enough of the talking about why to do Tag Team Arena. I'm going to show you guys how to do Tag Team Arena and give you guys some strategies on maybe how to progress in your respective tiers. So let's jump right into it. So this is Gold 4. So obviously these teams are pretty insane. So in terms of climbing here, so for me, I'm in red, but the way it is structured, go back here, only 2,500 people can enter the Gold 4. So even though I'm in red, I'm going to be part of that 2,500 most likely. I believe the cutoff should be closer to about 1,000. So I'm at 1,100, I'm good. But in the lower tiers, 1, 2, 3, for example, or any of these other tiers, you definitely want to try to get to yellow. So you want to be in this middle portion to get to yellow. And then if you're going to get into this portion green, you're going to, that means you're going to be pushing into the next tier if you can hold on for the reset. There's a couple different strategies here. So during reset, so let's say right now there's 40 minutes left. During reset, If you're in the green, you basically need to hang on. You don't need to do any risky fights or anything like that. Check your battle log, see if you're getting attacked, and then you have to make sure that you obviously stay in green to try to advance your tier. If you're trying to advance and you're not in green currently, this is the time where you want to be active in the final hour. In the final hour, this is the time where you need to pick some fights, some winning fights, and start pushing towards the green, because other people will definitely be in the same position as you, and especially in this tier. In Silver 4, entering Gold 1 is probably super competitive, because obviously Gold 1 is the Ramantu mission, one of the hardest missions for people in that progression level. And everyone will have the same idea as you, trying to get into Gold 1. So if you're in the position to advance tier, what is the best way to build your defense to protect your, basically protect your position while your offense can try to carry you? So I'm not going to go over like super insane teams here, but basically what I'm going to talk about is how you can build a defense that might stand the best chance of winning. So it's obviously going to come down to gear. If you have stone skin, for example, it's definitely going to be helpful to give your guys a chance to win. Most players will have a speed team because that's probably your most likely offense. So let's say you have a speed team. Let's say it's just a generic speed team here, right? So you have Arbiter, Booster, Strip, and then Nuker. Strip can be Madame Cirrus. It could be Rian the Conjurer, for example. Here, let's use Rian the Conjurer. And then Kimmy is just another booster. It could be Lysandra, could be Seeker, Goregrab, whatever you have at your tier. So let's use Seeker here, for example. So you guys noticed that the first thing I went for was my speed team. So basically, psychologically, people will always put their speed team on the top, usually with their best champions. So if you want your first defense to basically get killed easily by your opponent's speed team, you don't want to put your own speed team defense at the top. Ideally, you put your speed team defense maybe at the bottom, or maybe in the second. So most people, they kind of just click things and then just click go and then let the auto handle it. So if you catch someone that's lazy, for example, they won't run speed into speed, and then you might be able to sneak away a win. So the way I like to do it, it's like a small little psychological thing, is I put my tankiest team at the front, because that's most likely going to go up against somebody else's speed team, for example. So just whatever, like, I'm gonna pick more free to play champions if that's possible. Yeah, so let's say you have this, and then let's say you have Wukong as your damage dealer. So this is a pretty, kind of tanky team, and it might actually be good against somebody's speed team because of Torment. So for example, if someone's not paying attention and they run their speed team up against your first team, you might have a win on your hands here, because Wukong's not going to get killed too easily, and if he does, he's going to come back and try to nuke their team. So this is kind of like a team that might work. Usually you might have, like I said, you have a speed team because that's your main offense usually. And your second team usually is a bunch of tanky champions, whatever they may be. And then your third team probably is a mishmash of stuff. Your third team most likely is not fast enough to be like a second speed team. However, it probably is based around speed. So for example, if you have Armans, you can use Armans as a lead here. After that, let's say you have any nuker here. Any nuker could be viable nuker. Sorry, I have to say viable nuker. Let's say you have Skull Crown. You have Skull Crown here, and then you have, let's say you have Helicath. And then lastly, let's say you have some kind of interesting protection champion. Let's say you have Mithrala. Why not? All right. So let's say this is your defense. You kind of have a little bit of everything here. You have a damage dealer that is kind of hard to kill, so that's what you want first. Ideally, you want a damage dealer that's harder to kill than Ethos. So you want to make sure that you have somebody like that, even somebody like, for example, I would use somebody that's hard to kill instantly. Let's say you have Candrafon. Why not? Candrafon might not die instantly, and you might be able to win the speed race with your own Arbiter. Sorry. So first team, you have a tanky, hard to kill team. For example, it will counter some speed teams, so you might catch a lazy person off guard. That's just gonna click auto into you because psychologically they put their speed team at the front. And then as usually what people do actually psychologically is they put their best team at the front, and then their tiers of teams get progressively worse. So the thing is, ideally, you want to steal at least one game on defense. You don't want them to sweep you. You don't want them to sweep you. So ideally, if you have a roster that is not really filled out properly, and you can't fill out 3 teams very well, ideally you basically load up 2 teams in the back. So you kind of load up 2 teams in the back, let your first team get kind of rocked, and then try to win the next 2. So those are some extra like kind of psychological things that kind of work, and a little bit of strategy on how to position your teams. And like I said, you want to try to win at least one fight. At least one fight. It's hard to win all 3 against an offense that's paying attention, but you want to win at least one fight so your defense doesn't get swept. On the flip side of it, when you're doing offense, you want to win at least 2 fights, because even though it's nice to go for a 3 wins, it's actually really hard. Once you reach the limit of your roster, you're going to be hard pressed to even find fights where you can win 2 fights against. So right now, mostly I'm kind of focusing on defense teams because having fights that you can avoid really helps your total score ranking, because having a defense that basically just invites people to attack you definitely makes it really hard for your offense to catch up. So having fights that look difficult on defense, even though you don't have the proper gear, for example, will be helpful. So for example, like this third team here, even though I just kind of slapped it together, it doesn't necessarily work very well for defense, even though it might be a very viable offense team. It makes total sense, right? You got booster, strip, and then big nuke, attack-based nuker. Very, very good, right? Like it just makes sense. But as a defense team, it's not necessarily the best setup. And a lot of times people actually look for speed teams on defense because it's actually very easy to counter a generic speed team like this. So I'm going to give you guys some pointers here on how to beef up or defensify your speed team a little bit so it looks a little bit less juicy for people to hit. So for example, I'm going to keep the Arbiter lead here, right? You can put somebody like Basher. Basher basically tells the opponent that you have a lockout available, and then now you're going to be racing against the Arbiter with the lockout in second place. And then as another epic option to make your team a little bit less desirable to hit, you could even use, like I said, somebody like Skull Crown, which isn't easily killed instantly by most damage dealers. If you had something like, for example, Emic can be very annoying even just looking at him, because you kind of know what kind of fight you're in for. So it could be like Arbiter into Emic, where Emic places the taunt, and yeah, that could just be something that deters. Even just looking at it could be a deterrence. Somebody like for example, a team like this, Arbiter, Tormund, Armand, and Wukong, even though it's a speed team at heart, it's actually very annoying to deal with, because you can't, if you have a speed team, you can't go into it with another speed team because you have Tormund, and then if you go into it with a really slow team, then you're going to get screwed by the Armands. So it's an interesting team, and of course Wukong is not that easy to deal with because obviously he can come back and stuff. So even though this is a speed team, it's not a nice speed team where someone can go into and target, for example. And it's significantly stronger than just the generic speed team that I had listed earlier with just Seeker, Rion, and a Nuker. So this speed team, for example, on defense, basically telegraphs to your opponent that, hey, I'm not going to be easily taken out. That's kind of what it's saying. But you could have, on the flip side, a team that kind of telegraphs that it's going to be easily taken out, but you have the gear to basically surprise your opponent. So you can have a team like this. So Kymar comes in here. Let's say you also have whatever generic cleanser. Let's say Mithrala. And then you have a viable nuker. It doesn't have to be an insane nuker or anything. Let's say Skull Crown. I just use Skull Crown because it's the most accessible and exemplifies, you know, like a accessible, hard to kill nuker. So basically a team like this, let's say you try to get CC'd, for example. Let's say your Kymar comes in here with like Stone Skin. It surprises your opponent. See, Kymar doesn't get CC'd. He comes back, sleeps the enemy team. Mithrala cleanses everyone, and then Skull Crown gets a go. So this might actually surprise some people, just by having a properly geared champion that can disrupt your opponent. So to sum up, like defense, I'm kind of targeting like more like silver, in the silver entering gold 1 category. But basically your first team, you're probably looking at something with an arbiter, some kind of speed team. You're going to have one team that's kind of tanky. So one team that is a little bit slower team. Ideally, you have this team in Stone Skin. You have a win condition, which is a good nuker. And then your third team is kind of a flexible team. So if you have like pretty good speed champions, you can try to make a second speed team, ideally in some kind of protective gear like Stone Skin, bolster, shield set, you know, immunity, whatever, something that can kind of protect them, kind of surprise your opponent, but it has to be a flexible defense. Of course, they need to have some kind of win condition, some nuker, and then your last team would be a speed team, ideally, but it shouldn't be a straightforward speed team to deal with. And then obviously having your own picks for disruptive gear, disruptive combos is really good. Generally, I like to build teams that have a cleanser, have one way to protect themselves, whether it be Stone Skin or shield set, one nuker, and then one kind of control champion. So for example, this one, for example, this is a cleanser, reviver as well, one control champion, one protective champion, one damage dealer. So that would be kind of like a defense that I would probably go towards as like a general defense. All right, so quick comments about offense. So like I said, on offense, just like defense, you want to win at least 2 out of 3. So for defense, you want to win at least 1 and let your opponent win 2 in the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, you win at least 2 wins on defense. On offense, this is the same idea. You definitely do not want to lose 2 fights out of 3. You want to win at least 2. It's very hard to win 3 out of 3 on offense, unless you have basically like an overpowered roster for the tier that you're in. So if you have a really strong roster for a low tier, then of course you're going to win 3 out of 3. But you want to target at least 2 wins. And like I said, during the final hour of reset, just before, if you want to tier up, this is when you're going to be most active. And you want to be close, right? You want to use the early bit of the week to get close before you make your final push into the green and then advance your tiers. That's going to be the way you're going to do it. Unfortunately, if you push into green early and then you sit out this reset period, unless your defense is very strong, you're going to get pushed back down, and then you might wake up in the yellow, or you might wake up without advancing in tier. So having a strong offense is very important. Like I said, you're going to try to win 2 out of 3 fights. You're going to know what you can beat pretty quickly. You're going to look at teams or setups where you're going to fight and win at least 1 fight, and then you're going to evaluate how you're going to win the you're going to evaluate how you basically can win the other 2 fights, or at least 1 other fight. So I'm going to look at this guy. I have preset teams, but when you're starting out in the lower tiers, you're not going to have preset teams. You're going to need to use like a little bit of your brain power and basically try to handpick combinations that's going to work against the other teams. That's the best way to do it, and I find like I had to do that before because you're not going to have a preset team that's strong enough or overpowering enough to beat basically any offense or any defense that you see. So you're going to have to handpick your teams to deal with some of these fights. So for example, like the first fight, I'm going to use my speed team here. The second fight here, he didn't use his R-mans in lead, and then he has Rotos. So for me, I can definitely use like my second speed team. So I have one speed team, two speed teams, and then my third team is kind of like for a slower team. So against this fight, I mean, I could definitely just use like, I could definitely do this, that, but you want to assess how you can beat these teams, right? So first team, you want to try to outspeed them. If you can't, then you're going to use like a tanky team against them. If you can't, then you're going to throw away one fight. Then you have to win the next two. So that's kind of how you have to look at it. And, you know, it is a bit tedious, but if you're going to do this basically once a week, just to try to advance your tier, you kind of have to do it. And yeah, honestly, if you have a roster that's kind of like at least give you some options, it will be fun for you to gear and find options yourself to try to defeat some of these teams. Obviously, you don't fight teams that are completely out of your league and you have no chance against. So don't even waste your time looking at that or even being angry at that. So you want to try to do things that you can do, you have control over, right? Of course. So let's come back into this matchup here. So I'll show you guys how I would kind of go about this. So first team, speed team, I'm going to run it against his this team. I don't know why Sifi is resistance. He probably didn't put his arbiter in the lead. I don't know, maybe by accident, because this looks like a speed team to me, but now it has a resistance lead, but he doesn't have the team power for resistance, for example. So my speed team should overwhelm, lock him out, and then take him out pretty easily. Second team here, I should be able to get my R-mans in and then we'll shut him down, but I'm not going to use Harima against Rotos because I don't need to, because Taras is just going to nuke everyone here. I'm going to use UDK against the Rotos. And then we're going to save Harima. Harima is going to go in here against this team. So Harima really counters the F-Rack. And yeah, there's everything else is very okay. We have a reviver for F-Rack, and then we have the strip here, strip through the UDK, for example. Or what we could do is basically remove Ramontu completely and then just bring in the Lady Mikage for an ally attack, as well as basically boosting with the Harima. So this is kind of just shows you how I would like adjust my team to deal with the enemy defense. Even though like I have presets and all that, obviously I can just click auto and let it go and it'll probably be fine. But if your roster is not fully built out, you don't have, you're not fully immersed into the arena scene, then you're not going to have all the champions and gear available. You're going to need to be extra strategic, a little bit more tricky, and then obviously add your own little flair to whatever you're going to do, whether it be offense or defense. But let's do this fight real quick and see how it goes. All right, let's see if we can lock him out. I mean, we should. Yeah, so he probably misplaced the Arbiter, for example. He probably should have placed the Arbiter in the lead instead of Sifi. But yeah, so it just ends up being like an easy win for me, like very easy win here. So moving on. So team 2, this is where we have the speed lead with the R-mans, and then we have UDK to block the Rotos, which is their only threat really. So here I'm just going to control their R-mans. I'm going to kill their Duchess. And then after this, it's basically lights out. R-mans comes back, do the Terminator stuff. Mithrala has enough resistance to resist, but it cannot stop Sifi's irresistible resistance. Kill some stuff with the Taras. It's just full auto time right now. And then Rotos would never be able to get through to UDK, let alone get rid of the CC. So the third team is probably the most, the one that I had to do the most changes with. But basically, we basically made the correct changes here because Harima is going to hard check F-Rack. He's never going to be able to kill the Harima. And then we got Lady Mikage here too. And then we have Wukong, which actually comes back from dying. But he kind of 50-50 against Hethrak because Hethrak's going to be able to kill him, get the double hit, and so forth. But Harima checks him really hard, and then he will always weak hit against Harima. In this case, I'm just going to use the ally attack to kill off Elva, which is their main reviver. So after she's dead, okay, we didn't actually kill her, which kind of sucks. But let's see what happens here. And let's even take some stuff off. Nope, we didn't kill anybody either. But yeah, we should be able to win this fight without too much issue here. Now let's see, one shots the Duchess. Nope. So he did do some nasty stuff here, but our Wukong does come back. And we get to do some stunnage. This is not going to be able to kill the UDK. Kind of sucks. Rip. Yep. Uh-oh. Done. Kill her off. Oof. Brink of death. Anyways, you guys get the idea here. Full auto time. That's going to be it. So, yeah, basically just to show you guys that it does take some adjustment once in a while to properly handle some defenses. And don't expect to have full auto teams or anything like that, especially when you're going through the ranks and tiers. All right, guys. Anyways, hopefully these tips were kind of helpful. I would focus a little bit more on the defense side because, like I said, a strong defense or deterrent, or it acts as a good deterrent to keep your points up. Keep your and then you can basically just cherry pick your offenses as you go. You know, it's a tough format. Don't feel bad if you guys are stuck in bronze for a long time. Like I said, you guys need a pretty good stable of level 60 champions with masteries and proper gear to start climbing up. But like I said, it's definitely worthwhile to keep climbing up. You're going to get some decent rewards, and at the end of it, I mean, you're going to be getting like a sacred shard, some extra gems, some extra charms, even an option for a book if you guys want. It's let me say, it's very hard to grind the sacred shard and the book per month, and then all this stuff as well. So you guys do have to make some choices here. Usually I go for the sacred shard because it's the most value in terms of completing summon rush and all that stuff too. But yeah, it's definitely worth it if you guys get here. Of course, CBC points is a big reason too. And of course, the fragment champions are really nice for CBC points or just to help you through progression in the game. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys got some info out of it that you guys didn't know otherwise. I know some of it is a little bit more advanced, even though I tried to keep it more for the progressing player here. But, you know, hopefully you guys took away something that's going to help you guys in your journey. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know in the comments below how you guys received this video. Hopefully you guys, like I said, took away some info that was relevant to you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.